Welcome to Jayson Waller Unleashed. That's right, top podcast here. Super excited about today's show. We are digging back into my BAM. That's right, Buffalo Attitude Money Mindset Coaching. And so today's show will be about coaching. Some of the clips that I have and courses that I have where I've actually coached individuals on their business, on their employees, on how to grow their business, scale their business, hire, fire, all of the good things that you've got to learn as an entrepreneur out there and running your company. A lot of my coaching lessons are here and they will be on the show free of charge for you to pick those up. Watch those. So enjoy. Bam! Building a strong team around you. You know, one of the things as entrepreneurs or leaders that we have is ego gets in the way. It's facts. Like, I'm guilty of it. I didn't start getting coaching until like 3 years ago. Like, I was like, I don't need coaching, right? And I didn't start hiring better people than me around me till 4 or 5 years ago. So you have to get to a point to where you have to know you're not great at everything, and you don't have to be great at everything. You only have to be great at a couple things that you're passionate and you love, that you surround yourself with people that are great at the things you're not, and that you get coaching to help your great become elite and help your good get closer to great. But I'm a big believer that if I have 10 hours in a day to spend, I'm going to spend almost all 10 of those hours on whatever I'm great, try to get to elite, than I am to try to get good closer to great. That's just me. I want to learn the other stuff, but I want to make the great greater, right? That's just how I operate. And I that's what I believe in. And I think that when you know your strengths, and everyone has different strengths. Some people can sell, some people can, run operations. Some people can do marketing. Some people, like, you have different strengths, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that you're just great at. Then there's a handful you're good at. And then there's a bunch that it's like, you have no business doing. My advice is A, you got to put the ego to the side and realize that first. It's very important. And that's hard to do, but you have to. Because it's better for your business, it's better for your team, it's better for everybody. It's better for you. Like, it's a weight lifted. You don't have to know all. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. I have a control problem I'm still working on. These guys will tell you today I was all over about controlling something today. Like, that I'm dealing with, but I don't have a I know everything problem. Like, there's things that Brian knows and Will know and Joe know and Jay, like, I don't know some of that. So I'm like, dude, I don't know that. That's you guys, right? I've realized that over time. I don't need to know everything, but the things that I'm great at, which is vision, right? Which is execution, which is planning, which is mindset, which is sales and marketing and strategies of like how we're going to get their call to action, what a consumer might think. I try to double down on those and teach those. And then when there's things that I don't know or things that I've struggled with, I go, I learn from other people. Every time I talk to even my partners here, or I talk to, I've got 2 coaches and mentors, and I talk to different people. I'm learning every time I do a podcast. The podcast, I'm always learning from someone who's on my show, or I'm on their show, and I'm getting to talk to them and I'm getting to hear their story, and I'm picking up on things. So it's very important that you're putting your ego to the side, but B, you're having some kind of self-improvement. If it's not here and it's not with me, it's got to be with something. It's got to be with somebody. You can't just sit and think you're going to coast your way through. You won't. You're hurting yourself, not investing in improving your skill sets and making the great greater and the good a little better. Like, you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to invest the time. I know, like Will's talking about, he's investing all this time on ChatGPT. I am too, not as much as he's doing, but I am, because I want to learn it. I want to be ahead of it, right? You have to improve. You can't sit the same. If you sit the same, you're not growing. And if you look at yourself a year from now and you're doing the exact same thing, you're getting the exact same results, you won't be happy. So in order to scale, in order to grow, and nobody can tell me, anybody that runs a business that tells me I'm good with just doing this is full of shit. They're not good with it. They're lazy, or they're scared. They're never good with it. Nobody's good with just doing, nobody's good with being mediocre. You don't run a business because you want to be mediocre. You heard Isaac. He's like, look, it's going to be 15 years till I grow again. He probably felt handcuffed and caged. When you're an entrepreneur, you don't want to feel handcuffed or caged. You want to create your own map. You want to lay down the bricks on that map, and you want to run on those bricks. And in order to do that, you have to evolve. You have to self-improve. You have to change. I look at myself and all the good and all the bad that I've been through the last 8 years in that whole journey. I'm so much smarter and have so much more wisdom than I would have had a year ago, 3 months ago, 5 years ago. Like, I'm like, holy crap, I'm a whole different person. And I'm excited to know in 1 year from now, I'm going to be even more smarter because I'm continuing to self-improve. I'm continuing to learn from my failures. I'm continuing to struggle through things, right? And I talk a lot about in the podcast about blessings and battles. And, maybe you guys are going through a battle right now. Maybe you're not, but I'm a big believer of every battle you go through, there's a blessing at the end. There's either a blessing like you learned what happened in that battle and you got better from it. That experience gave you the knowledge and wisdom to navigate the next time something like that comes up. Or, you're enjoying your blessings now and just be prepared. Another battle is supposed to come. That's how life works. It's battles, then blessings, and battles, then blessings. And sometimes you're not sure what those blessings are, but they're there. Like the blessing that I got from the company closing, which is horrific, is now I get to take all this knowledge and be able to help elevate and help other people. And that's exciting. It's like having, I have 4 kids. It's like when my son throws a touchdown pass, I get jacked up. When Jeremiah or Tavon or, anybody I'm coaching goes out and crushes it, I get excited. I'm like, hell yeah. Like, I feel like I'm making a dent in this place and it feels good. I'm fulfilled. I'm happy. It's not about money. It's not about success. It's about fulfillment and feeling happy. And so I would challenge each one of you to make sure that you're finding a way to self-improve and that you're finding a way to get fulfillment and happiness inside rather than just sitting stagnant and assuming you know it all, because you don't. And as the world evolves, you've got to evolve with it. You got to empower, you got to trust. Somebody told me a long time ago, the only way to grow is to trust people, and I'm a control freak. I like to know everything, feel like I can move the needle on everything. But the truth is, that I'm great at a few things. I'm okay at some things and I suck at some things. It's normal. And so you got to surround yourself with different people that have different attributes, different skill sets that you might be lacking. And sometimes that's hard to do because it is hard to trust people. I've been burned many, many times, but then there's also times that I haven't been burned. And, if you think of yourself as a big tree, and you want other people to grow and they're a tree, well, if you block their sunshine, they can't grow. You have to be able to allow them to shine in order to grow. So you have a good forest instead of just one tree. And it's the same thing in business. When you're adding people on your team, you have to entrust them and you have to let them shine and grow. Otherwise, they're not going to do anything. And people usually take a job or want a career or join a team because they want to see career advancement. They want to see opportunity. They want to see the potential to really, hey, if I start here, where can I be in 6 months? Where can I be in 2 years? Where can I be in 3 years? They want to grow with the company, or they want to see trajectory of growth of where they're going to be next, right? Or the second reason is money, or the third reason is culture. And so you've got to combine all 3 of those in order to keep good people motivated. I'm a big believer in like awards or contests or, showing proof of I've hired this person and now they've moved here. Look at this. This can be you. And now they've moved here and this can be you. When they see that, it becomes real to them. It just depends. I mean, I'm a big believer of bringing people along for the ride. So you want them growing the same way you are. They want to see the advancement. You want to work on your profitability and bonus them on the profit so they feel like they're an owner or they're a partner. Because I think that's important. When you just compensate a leader just based on just sales or just dollars, not overall, then they're just about that sale thing. And look, sometimes that's okay. But I what I've learned is it's when they care about everything, they'll turn the lights off. They'll pick the soda pop that they buy at the store. Wink, wink, Brian. Yeah. And, little things that happen that you figure out and you're like, okay, I need someone that's going to think like me and that's going to care about the overall health and profitability of the entire company, not just sales or clients, because you might have clients, but it might be costing you more. You might lose on some clients and you don't want them to just go wheel and deal. You want to be profitable. And I think that if you're going to bring someone along on that, you want them to, eat, breathe, shit, sleep, everything you're doing, think like you, be a little mini you, and then you hand them that responsibility. And then you bonus them on your profits, right? I'm talking to a lady now that owns a lash company. And she crushes it. She probably does. I'm not kidding. $400,000 a year or so. And she's like, I don't want to share. I don't want to add people, but I want to grow. What do I do? Right. She should have been on this call because she's signing up. But I said, look, you can't be greedy. You're going to have to give some of that up. A small piece of a big pie is a lot more than a big piece of a small pie. And you have to be willing to think like that. Okay, I don't mind giving them some of that because I'm going to expand this and it doesn't matter. We all win. And that's what it takes. And so you train that little mini me. I think it's, if you get to the point where you're overwhelmed, if you get to the point where it's like, I don't have enough time to grow my business, I'm too busy managing my business, then you need to find someone that you can train ASAP to manage it so you can grow it. Because that's the thing. If you're only managing it, you're not growing it, then you're stagnant. True. So if you're at that point, then you need to start making that move. And don't think title is so important, right? So to some people, different things make people tick. Sometimes it's title, sometimes it's money, sometimes whatever it is, right? Yeah. If you've got that right-hand person, you don't need to just pop and make them the CEO. They could be the director of, the VP of. Got it. Right? Yeah. And then you have more room to grow, because you got to be careful. Once you hand them the key, you can't get it back. Like if you put them at the top of the line, there's nowhere to fucking go. So you almost want to ease them up so they have more growth, because once they get to the top, I tell people, like, the only place they can go is fucking down. Yeah. So you want to have stairs for them to continue to climb. Yeah. I made the mistake. I'm like, all right, you're a president, you're a VP. And then it's like, well, fuck, now we're huge and I really need a real president. No offense to this guy. We've outgrown him. Yeah, like someone that can bring all this value more. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. But if I'd have made that person a senior director or a VP, then I have room to bring someone in as we grow, because you will outgrow people. Your business will outgrow folks. It's normal. It happens, and I remember on my team, like, we outgrew other people, and I was like, well, shit, we're going to have to bring people in and give them other titles and shift around. And what do we do? And I've learned over time that you can't put them at the top of the line because there's nowhere to go. You don't need that title. The title won't do it. And what you can tell them is, look, eventually you're going to be my COO. I'm not big enough to have a COO right now. So you're the director of operations, but eventually you're going to train your replacement as we grow, and you're going to be the VP. And then after the VP, like, you give them, like I told you, they want to see where it can go. They want to see the opportunity. Exactly. Oh, I've got that. Then they get excited, and it's not insulting because, they'll understand. You're not, depending, if you only got 15 employees, you don't need a COO. You need someone managing your operations. If you give them that title COO, and all of a sudden you get to 1,000 clients and you got 300 or 400 employees, guess what? That person might not should have been the CEO, and then you're cutting them off. And that's true. That's unfortunate. And I've been there. I've done that. And that sucks. Yeah. You got to pay attention to that. Okay. I would look for a fractional CFO. You got to get one, because I know the numbers that you're doing and the volume of dollars you're doing and where you're wanting to go. And I believe how fast you're going to grow. You're going to need it. One of the things that was damaging to us is we didn't get a fractional CFO until, what was it, 2018? And it'd have been nicer if we did that in like 17, right? We were a year late. We spent a lot more money doing more audited financials and a lot more cleanup than we needed to. I think you're starting to flirt in those numbers where you do that. And the cool thing about a contracted CFO is you're only paying them for the hours that they put in. I don't think you're nowhere near needing a full-time, but I think having a contract CFO that maybe the controller can go to, that you have for 5, 8, 10 hours a week max, right? Maybe that's a month. Maybe it's 12 hours a month to go over weekly reports, a couple hours a week. It's not a bad way for them to navigate and get that thing done. And that will be efficient enough if eventually you want to raise capital, or you want to do some, mergers and acquisitions, or you want to do something with the business. In order to do that, maybe go get some debt, where you got to make sure the books are flowing. And as much as I love controllers, and trust me, I'm a big believer in being efficient in cost. You don't want to jump over dollars to save quarters, and you'll be jumping over dollars to get quarters if you're just thinking that way, which I've done. Like, trust me, I'm like, oh, we don't need that. We don't need that. Then finally it was like, shit. All right, let's get a contracted CFO. Then we paid hours upon hours upon hours cleaning it up, and then brought that person on full time. And then when we outgrew that person, when we were going to go public, and we were advised by a lot of these companies, you need a better CFO. And I loved our CFO, great dude. We were just too big for him. I didn't make the move I should have. And that was also costly. Those are some of the mistakes I made along the way. That had nothing to do with our business closing, but it was a lot more headache and heartache of controls and things that we could have done to be even more efficient, and maybe navigate a little bit better through some of those problems, right? So it's like, you've got to be able to, when your business needs something, the business comes before any kind of personality, relationship, or anything. It's always about the business. That's number one. And so, right now, if your controller's doing it, but if you're already feeling like I need a little help, then you probably should get a contracted CFO. We had almost $1 million. It was like $800,000 in stolen charges on expense reports and fraudulent gas charges from employees for like a 2 or 3 quarter audit that we did. So the frustrating thing was our CFO at the time would tell the executive team, and I surrounded myself with, unfortunately, a bunch of order takers too. What's good about my partners now is I usually tell them, I did scream today, like, I want to be involved. Get me involved in every damn decision. But that's because I didn't know, and I'm a control freak. But really, they've been running things and they haven't needed me. And they're operators and they're doing what they need to do, which is important, because if I hover, they can't grow. If I hold and strangle them, they can't manipulate and be the leaders they need to be. You got to let your team eventually lead. You got to be able to trust them to lead, right? I'm guilty of that. If I don't know something, there's a problem, I'm like, what the hell? Get me involved. But really, that's just me getting upset. The facts are, I want them to be able to make the best decisions and only involve me when need be, because then they're learning to be better leaders. They're learning to be better entrepreneurs. They're learning to be better executives. It's better for them. It's better for the business. It's better for me. With the CFO part that I had, this guy would tell us all the time, dude, we audit everything, all these things. And then I just didn't believe it. I'm like, there's no way we're spending this much on gas. There's no way we're doing this. Doesn't make sense. So I had my own audit done from some of the auditors that worked for us, where I thought he was having it done. They're like, no, he ain't having it done. And we found all that stuff. And that ended up being his demise. It wasn't that like books were funny or people weren't doing, it was that there weren't controls in place, because no one will ever tell me that, oh man, my employees don't steal. No, they steal. It's how much. Okay. Because people steal. How much do they steal is what you got to try to control. You can't lose your shit that people steal. They're going to steal. How much and how much control you put in place is what's key. So if we had some of those other controls, and this was over almost a year long, I mean, when you're doing 50 million in revenue a month, it's a drop in the bucket. It's not going to change our business staying open. It may seem like a lot of dollars, like, holy shit, $800 to $1 million of wasted fuel charges that were fraudulent from reps, and, certain executive doing, inappropriate expense reports, and probably some regionals doing it, like all of that stuff that we found on like a 6-month audit. It was a drop in the bucket. I mean, you're talking less than 1%, but still, that's still real money. And so you don't want to get to that point where you're bleeding out and it's too late and you're like, shit, I should have done that. You want to be ahead of that. That's one of the things I learned. Like, if I could have more controls in place, we'd have probably had a few extra $1 million to fight the fight at the end, right? That we didn't. We had an extra few $1 million that me and my partner didn't have to put extra millions in at the end to stay open. But we didn't, right? There's nothing you can do. So I tell people, like, if you're worried about that and as you're growing, you don't want to be bleeding and not know. You want to have controls in place, because if you got gas cars and you got vehicles and you got tablets and you got expense reports, I assure you, it's not if they're stealing, it's how much. There's theft. That's the world we live in, unfortunately. People justify it. Well, the company makes this, it's fine. Well, they won't feel this, it's fine. They justify it, but it's theft. It's what I've seen in every business. I haven't seen it not happen. I'm not saying everybody's a thief. I'm saying you got people stealing. Here's the other problem entrepreneurs or business owners or leaders struggle with. It's like, all right, I'm going to hold on to this C or D that I have because I don't have anyone to fill the space. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go look for an A or B. You have to be careful of that, but I hate that. I hate that we're held what I call hostage to that situation. And that sucks. And it happens to everybody, no matter how big or small a business is. You feel hostage to a situation. So I'm a big believer of having multiple people know the job and building up our bench. Right? So if we've got somebody doing this job, they've got to have their replacement that they're grooming so they can move up. So therefore, when you lose a piece, people just shift and you're never hurting. We mastered that in the solar company pretty well. We didn't get to do that really well in the security company. So it's, it took time to really say, okay, we've got to develop leadership and then an assistant leader and then a leader over here and an assistant leader. So if we lose somebody, we're gone. If we lose somebody over here, we can place them over in this other department.
Easily merge them.
You always want to have multiple people know the job, because if you have somebody you have one editor and, they're cutting your stuff and then you're stuck, you're asked out, you're handcuffed to, I can't get rid of this person, even though they suck. Absolutely. I deal with it still to this day. Like, I had, one person finding, commercials for us and advertising for us. And it's like, I have to sit here and tolerate her shit. Right. And it's like,
Yeah.
till I just like, I'm not going to anymore. Sometimes you rip the Band-Aid off. Sometimes it sucks. You got to pick up the pieces. That's why I like to learn things on my own as well. So I'm not held hostage. Sometimes, it's hard if you can't see people or be involved with people, or they've got a different time zone. You're like wondering, are they putting in the work? As recent as this past year, I've struggled with people working at home. I was the anti-work at home person. Like, no way you can work at home. Like 1 in 15 people can work from home. I've changed, right? I've evolved. I said, okay, I actually have some good people that can do a lot of great shit from home.
Yes.
They are very successful from home. Some can't, some can. So I used to have this control thing. If you're not in front of me and I can't see you physically working, you're probably not doing enough. That used to be this thing that I've had for years, to where now it's like, look, as long as tasks are being met, right? As long as I'm giving direction or I'm seeing results, right? Because everything's based on results. Then there's nothing for me to, inspect what I expect, right? There's no reason for me to open the hood. It's when things slow down or momentum slows down or things get stagnant, I start asking questions. I tell people that work for me or with me, business partners, executives, directors, doesn't matter. I tell them, look, don't take it personal. I inspect what I expect. I question, because that's the kind of mentality I have. You have that same kind of personality where if you're going to let go, they just have to have thick skin to understand it's not personal. It's just who you are. It doesn't mean you're doubting them. It's just you need to freaking see it, or it doesn't make sense to you. You need to feel it, or it doesn't make sense to you. Some people aren't that way. They just take people for their word, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. I'm the opposite. I like to see it. Forget their word. It's not that I don't trust them. Maybe they think it's AB and I need it to be EF. So I need to see, because maybe there's a misconnection there, where if I see it, I'm like, oh, they got it. Or, hey, you're missing this. So you just got to be proactive when you're hiring people and you're training people and you're coaching people and you're grooming people in your business. You've got to be really, really, really proactive of making sure they understand your personality and that they don't take it personal. Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. I love comp plans, dude. I love to go over comp plans.
There's not much you don't love.
Well, there are some things I don't love. Okay. I don't love finances, although I'll go over them. But Brian will tell you, I like numbers now. And he's like, we're still working on April's books. It's May 2nd. I'm like, well, you're fucking 2 days late. We should have it at April 30th at the end of 5 o'clock. I want to know how we did. So there are things I don't like. But I do love most of the stuff, just because I love the the hunt, the game, the whole thing. I love it. I love to see the stuff. Now, when it was my companies and I had to change sales plans, I was like, fuck, we got to change sales plans again. And I would get excited because I want to be creative I have a 70-30 rule in a lot of times, especially for leadership. Pay them 70% of their salary, make 30% based on company's profit or what they've brought to the table driving business to where you want their 100% comp plan to be. Therefore, they have a vested interest to not just come in and clock in. There's going to be results driven. I'm a big believer in that, in all positions in the company. Like, that's a big deal to me. No, I get it. And I'm a big fan. We did that all the way from people booking appointments to managers, to leaders, to installers, to project managers, to service leaders. Like, we did that in a lot of our positions. Some positions it's hard to do if you just have somebody counting beans and doing accounting. It's hard to say, but they can be profitable on the business being profitable, right? But you don't want them to screw the books over. So that's a funny line there. There's different options, though, you got to think about. Customer service, we used to bonus our old customer service teams on their quality of calls, their call time. You'd win an award, things like that. But you just want to keep the competition up, and you don't want them just clocking in and clocking out. The other thing you always talk about is profit sharing, which we mentioned a little bit, which I think is important too. Where you offer, certain employees, leadership employees, a way to be, if the company's profitable, they're profitable. They get a spiff. We do that now in the new venture, and it doesn't kill the company, but it allows them to feel like an owner without owner rights and get paid on profit of the business. And it's a good deal. Wouldn't you agree, Brian? Like, it works out for these folks. It'll be costly when we're huge, but it's worth it. That's the deal you make. And you want them to be there for that. Right? You want them to be able to post them on the wall and say, look, they started when we opened and look what they're doing now because they were part of that. Don't you want to be part of this? You always want to have that story to tell, right? And so you need folks like that for that success story. Same thing with you, Danielle, like whoever's running your things, you need to tell the story. They came in, they're doing this. Now they're a leader here. When you're hiring, don't you want to follow that path? We might open another location, right? You want to build that hope and that desire for them. But people come in, they take jobs for three reasons. They take jobs for the opportunity. They see the growth opportunity in the business. They see other people being successful. They see the growth ladder. 2, money. 3, culture. If you work on those 3 things, you'll get the best people. But they've got to see the ladder. They got to see people moving up the ladder, because some people aren't as motivated of money. They want to be I want to be a manager. I want to be a general manager. I want to be a director. Some people are driven by title. Some people are driven by that ladder of success. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I like that. I mean, I like money too, but I like to move up. That's how I was. I wanted to be number 1. And then some people are only driven on money, or money's part of that equation. And then the culture. Like, you got to make that culture fun. The downfall and the greatest thing of the businesses I've ever ran is it was cult-like. And I didn't do that on purpose. But because we gave profit sharing, and because we gave hope, and because we had the success story of growing within, moving people within the company up to be managers and directors and regionals, it was almost like a cult. Like, they were all in. And the problem with that's a great thing, because then they're giving you 110% most of the time. The problem with it is if they're not on the team anymore, there is no, it was a good ending. They hate you. You're like the ex-girlfriend or boyfriend, and they can't stand you now because they're not part of it anymore. That's what happens. That's a good and it's a bad. To me, people ask me all the time, well, would you change it? No, I wouldn't. I do the same thing, because I'd rather have people going to bat for me, like we're in a battle, like we're in a war, all in, no matter what. And then we deal with the ones that leave and they don't like us. They hate us because they're not part of it. Fine. Rather than I just get half-assed people that only put in half-assed effort and I get half-assed results. I'm not a fan of that. So I like them to drink the full Kool-Aid and be all in. And I don't purposely make it cult-like, but because we're all rowing the same way and we're excited and we're all on motivation and we all have the same dream and we're, everybody's got skin in the game, it becomes that way. Some of these guys on the call, they've worked with me for a long time. And, I think somebody came into mind recently for them that they were like, we need to fire this person. So, I'm not going to say it's 100% accurate. I'm going to say it's about 90% accurate. 9 times out of 10. If you're thinking about firing somebody, you probably should. But every now and then you'll be surprised and go, okay, they just needed a kick in the ass. I think we have that now with a girl that works for us, where everyone was like, all right, get rid of her. Well, now it's like, okay, well, maybe she might be able to step up. We'll see. Time's to tell. I mean, I've never, ever, ever in my life have said, oh, I shouldn't have fired that person. Never. Yeah. People don't want to feel like they're putting in the same work, getting paid the same, if someone taking advantage of it and you're not strong enough to move on from them. That's going to bother them. There'll be resentment. And there shouldn't have to be, but there is. Yeah. I mean, that's the 80-20 rule that I kind of live by, right? Like, that's why I'm always replacing, the bottom 20%, or believe in that in most cases, because they're the ones that are holding everyone else back. And then those folks are getting resentful because, they're just riding the train. They're not moving the train. They're not pushing the train. They're just taking the ride. So if it's your first time, it's always hard. I've done it probably
That's why it's so hard.
Times,
and I'm such a
right?
bubbly.
I had some intimidation the first business I ever opened was a home security business. And, a lot of family members, everybody was like, oh, you ain't going to be able to do it. And I was intimidated. I didn't finish traditional high school. I didn't go to college, and I was hiring people older than me that had education. So I was intimidated. I was insecure. And these guys were like, the door knocked and they came from ADT and they had all this experience, and we were building van teams and, there was times I had to make decisions on people to where it was like, I just got frustrated. We would have a sales meeting. We had this wheel that we would spin and give out money if they sold a deal. Be like, remember that, Kenny? Kenny used to run the van program. So, we would do that. And we had these guys that worked for us. And I was like, our numbers sucked and we're giving out money. We're dancing. I'm like, look, we need people to work Saturday. And I said, who's, willing to work Saturday? And there were people with big goose eggs, zeros on the board, that would not raise their hand to work. And they were just like not listening in the meeting and kind of disrespectful. And I fucking snapped. I snapped and I said, so nobody's going to do it? And I said, well, so I looked at one guy, I said, hey, you've got 0. You're not going to work Saturdays? And I said, get the fuck out of the office. Like I did it the wrong way. The fuck out of the office. He walked out, and then I looked at anybody else. I said, anybody else with a zero not working Saturday? Now, it took me all of this, anxiety, all of me harboring this. How do I do it? Holding on till I snapped. You don't want to go to that point, right? Because I could have just, moved on from people. Now, with all these years and thousands of people, unfortunately, more thousands that I've hired, but, several hundred to 1,000 I've probably personally fired. I just keep it short and sweet. Hey, I think we're going to go a different direction. I wish you the best. I'll give you a great reference. Less is more. The more detailed you get, the more personal it becomes. I still run into my own issues with goal setting. I get frustrated sometimes, like with this new coaching program. It's like, am I supposed to be up to 100 members and 15, which means 100 in the community and 15 one-on-one, or am I good with, 20 and 5, right? And so the question is you have to set your goals, and they've got to be realistic goals. And I don't want to, outgrow what I'm supposed to be able to manage and handle. And so, when you talk about setting goals, I talk about all the time, you want to establish clear, measurable, achievable goals that align with your long-term vision. And part of that, when you're running a business or you're running a sales empire, or you're in real estate or you're building a company, is we have these big long-term goals. We're like, you know what, we're going to accomplish this. I want to do 10 million this year. I want to do 20 million this year. But you got to focus on this week's goal. You got to focus on this month's goal. You got to focus on next month's goal, the next 90 days. And when I remind myself, and I have to do that all the time, okay, slow down. What's my goal this week? Okay, my goal this week is to gain one person one-on-one. I'm giving an example from my coaching business. Gain 5 people in the group. What is my goal for the flooring company we're involved in? Well, make sure we get more sales reps, help push the executives that are running the company and my partners to do what they need to do, make sure that we can get Atlanta opened up. And I think it's important. I don't care how big or small you are in business, whether you're starting, whether you're doing 200,000 a year, whether you're doing 2 million a year, whether you're doing 20 or doing 200, it comes back to realistically setting those goals that are attainable and measurable, that you can put in front of yourself, and you want to be able to obtain them. If you set goals that you can't get, you're just going to get discouraged. You're not going to be able to get to the next level. You're not going to be able to better yourself and get that momentum and build that confidence. Everything is about confidence. If you're not confident in yourself, and I doubt myself sometimes too, like I have to go, shit, Jay, I gotta wake up. Like I can't get down on this. I see progress. And sometimes it's hard. It's like watching paint dry. It's like watching your hair grow. Like it feels like it's not going anywhere, but it really is. When you start to look at it, I pulled in the parking lot today and I go, holy shit, in 2 years from right now, 2 years ago, I got a place in Florida, and we were on our rodeo to try to take the company public. A year ago right now, we had $1.05 billion offer to do a reverse merger. And then now that company's closed and I'm building from the ground up, right? So much changes in 1 year. So much changes in 6 months. And that's when you go back and you look at it to see your progress, but you always focus forward. Bam, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed Jayson Waller and Leach talking about the coaching opportunity, some of the courses and classes that we taught. I hope that you got some of those gems and they can help you better your business. Make sure you subscribe on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, all of them, baby. Bam.